And on that reform note, a neat segue, because Jaymey McIvor has become the first Tory councillor to defect to Reform UK after Nigel Farage wrote to every Conservative councillor in the land to cross the floor or face losing their seats. Now, the Conservative says that Mr McIvor was expelled from the party at the start of the month following a disciplinary investigation, although Reform UK insisted that he was a victim of vicious Tory infighting. Well, since this, 2 Scottish Conservative councillors and 3 independent district councillors in my hometown county of Nottinghamshire have since defected to Nigel Farage's party. And Jaymey McIvor joins me now in the studio. Welcome to the show.
Good afternoon.
So, Nigel Farage wrote to every Conservative councillor in the land. He said, come and join the reform revolution. You did. Why?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think as a parliamentary candidate at the earlier part of this year, I was knocking on doors, talking to people, and it was abundantly clear that it felt at times really awkward that I was standing against reform, because I absolutely believe in reform's mission. I believe so much in our country, and I feel like many people in our country very let down. So I've always had a reform vein in me, that's for sure. And actually, having now left the Conservative Party, my choice to leave the Conservative Party following what, Reform have characterised it absolutely right, vicious, toxic behaviour towards me. Reform, to me, is the future. And as someone in my 20s, like many people in their 20s, they voted, some for the first time, for reform, because reform is the future. I do genuinely believe for the next generation that is going to take this country forwards, it is going to be, hopefully, with so many people voting reform, joining reform, because reform love this country, we're passionate about our country, and we want our country to thrive. Now,
Jaymey, at the general election, when you stood as a Conservative candidate, you did say, there's always a tweet, that a vote for reform is a vote for Sir Keir Starmer. What changed?
Well, actually, a lot has changed, because when I wrote that tweet, of course, I was a member of the Conservative Party, and it became abundantly clear to me that there was a small amount of people that might be voting reform, and those small amounts of people could potentially be Conservative voters instead, and that could mean that in the Red Wall we may lose some seats. What has happened since then is Reform now have 5 members of Parliament, councillors seriously considering going to Reform, and I think today I read 93,000 members. Back in March, Reform was not where it is today, and there's a reason why I haven't deleted that tweet, because at the time that may have been the case. It certainly was my personal belief.
Now then, you're the first up the ladder, at least in England. There's been some Welsh lads have gone up the ladder, some independents. David Thomas, councillor, we had him on the show before. Do you think you're going to be the first of a new wave of reformers? Have you been contacted on the back channels by other Conservatives eager to follow your lead?
Well, I have to say, I have been inundated with messages from both Conservative Party members and various people within the Conservative Party who are saying, on a personal note, Jaymey, we totally understand why you have made this decision. People that have been on this journey with me for many years following my politics. But of course, I have been contacted by a number of different councillors from all different parts. I'm not going to share. I'm a very confidential person. I've promised every single person I've spoken to they can speak to me. They can speak to me in confidence. But let's just say it's keeping me very busy answering to all these messages.
So what's the plan? So you start off with the town hall takeover, and then you know where your vote is, and then you'll build into the general election. Is that the plan, to take your seat as a parliamentarian for the Reform Party in 5 years' time? Is that the plan?
Loads of people in Essex voted Reform. Essex is, I'm so proud to be from Essex. Essex is home of entrepreneurship. It's home of people that have more than one job. It's home of people that, aspire to have more than what they've got. We've got something in us, and other parts of the country believe they've got something in them too. But in Essex, there is something in us. We are so patriotic. We love our country, and we are go-getters. And that's why so many people voted Reform at the general election. That's why Essex has 2 Reform MPs and came second in several others too. There is a real appetite for reform in Essex, and the response I have had from my own residents in Ongar is this was a calculated decision on my part too. I wouldn't have, made myself the most unpopular politician in Ongar as the county councillor. That'd be a ridiculous thing to do. It's actually my residents who've been saying, about time you joined Reform, because lots of the things that I've been saying, both in the Conservative Party privately and, to my residents, are now being said by Reform and also being said by some people trying to be leader of the Conservative Party. I have always been passionate about my country, passionate about enterprise, and of course, like so many people, so frustrated with what is happening with our borders at the moment. And so it's actually my residents who have been really encouraging me to join Reform too.
OK, the only way is Essex for you there. Jaymey McIvor, thank you very much for joining us. Defected from the Tories to Reform. Thank you very much. And